Hello, Will Ladd here, and we know Australia can be a very dangerous landscape, and so can Australian wildlife. But what about Australian birds? Well, actually, they're really cute, bright coloured, and have heaps of personality and smiles. But they can also be very dangerous. So let's talk about Australia's most dangerous birds. Let's start off with the silver gull, which is also known as the Australian common seagull. They can grow up to 36 to 44 centimetres tall. You can easily identify them by their white head, pale grey wings with tipped black feathers, and the bright red bill and red legs and a scary white eye. They're found all throughout the Australian coastline and even found in New Zealand and New Caledonia. You can find the silver gull in coastal and inland wetlands, and they are adaptable to new areas like urban environments and, sadly, rubbish dumps. But what makes the silver gull so dangerous is how territorial they are. Just like a local 25-plus-year-old Australian male surfer who's never left his hometown, they can be very territorial of the beach they live on. And if the seagull feels like their eggs or babies are threatened, they will attack and swoop. But what makes them pure evil is their hunger and desire for hot chips. And they're known to be a bit of a bully on the beach, trying to steal your food. And I'm sure some of the people watching this video have had this happen to them. And please don't feed the silver gulls, because a lot of their bad behavior happens because they're trying to steal your food. But when they do attack, you're pretty much just going to get a little bite on the arm or leg, nothing too serious. Now the next bird is a bit of a mixed bag, and that is the Australian pelican. They can grow up to 1.8 metres tall and have a wingspan of over 2.5 metres. Identifiable by their white fur with black tips on the wings, short legs, and their massive pink bill with yellow eye rings. They're found all throughout the country and even inland Australia, which originally I just thought it was the coast, so I was quite shocked by this. Just look at this map from the Australian Museum. The pelicans are everywhere, only really being absent from true desert biomes, making them very adaptable to new locations and landscapes. They love to eat saltwater and freshwater fish, but they are also a vacuum, eating pretty much anything from meat, chicken, bread, and the list goes on. But are the pelicans dangerous? Well, yes and no. I'm going to explain. They are a very optimistic feeder, trying to put anything into their mouth. And that's why the capybara fandom doesn't like pelicans, because they try to eat anything, including capybaras. Look, this bird's big, but it isn't smart, yeah? And the pelican is even known for trying to eat people. As I said, they're very optimistic. But the pelican is known to be a bit of a menace at the boat ramp. And for your own safety, if they see your bucket of fish, you do not want to get in their way. So they will attack and hurt you, but there's not going to be any life-damaging injuries. Now onto the biggest menace, but the smartest bird on this list. That is the Sulphur-Crested Cockatoo. And you knew this guy was going to be on this list for good reasons. They can grow up to 48 to 55 centimetres tall, and there's no mistaking they are Australia's most famous bird, with their whole body being consistently white with a yellow crest on the top and some yellow washing underneath the wings and a large dark beak. The Sulphur-Crested Cockatoo can be found all throughout Australia, and they were originally absent from Western Australia but introduced there in the early 1900s. And they're a bit of a gangster, hanging out in large gangs from up to 5 sulphur-crests to 100 sulphur-crests. And they have one of the loudest screams in Australian wildlife, and you can hear their scream up to a mile away. But they can be a bit of a menace to society, and just like me, the sulphur-crest hates suburban living. But unlike me, they're known to attack suburban areas, destroying houses, playgrounds, sports grounds, and taking down society one house gutter at a time. But what makes this bird truly dangerous is their beak. It is so strong, it can bite off an adult finger in one go. But you're rarely going to be in this situation. And the only place they can become an issue or a danger is highly tourist areas, because people are feeding the cockatoo food that they shouldn't eat. And that means they become naughty and confident to attack and steal your food. And just like the silver gull, they're willing to go head to head with a human for some hot chips. So please don't feed the wildlife, so we can sleep easy at night without fear of evil cockatoos. Now, the next 4 birds I'm going to talk about actually can be pretty dangerous and should be approached with caution. Next on the list is the bird that's known to never give up and never back down, and that is the masked lapwing. One of Australia's most common birds, and they can grow up to 30 to 37 centimetres. And they're Australia's largest lapwing bird. Easily identifiable by their yellow wattles above and below their eyes extending down to their neck, with a clean white underside to their bright pink legs. And spores at the end of their wings. We'll be talking about them shortly. They're found all throughout Australia, only really being absent from the desert. And you won't get rid of these guys. If you build a suburb or city around them, they don't care, they'll just stay. The reason why is because it doesn't affect their nesting areas, because they love open grounds. So places like suburban parks, gardens, school ovals, sports grounds, and even supermarket car parks. Like, imagine going shopping and you get to your car in the car park and you look down and it's like, oh, there's a little lapwing. But what makes them so dangerous is how protective they are of their young. The adult lapwing will do whatever means necessary to get you away from the nest. This means screaming, pretending to have a broken wing to lure you away.
Oh, call an ambulance! Call an ambulance! But not for me!
But most of all, swooping. Which can really hurt because of the spur at the end of their wing, which can do some damage. And worst case is, they can cut you open pretty bad. This rarely happens though, but they are still very fearless of humans. Now, starting off the top 3 is the emu bird. They can be found all throughout Australia, only being absent of dense forest biomes. They're very easy to identify. By their size, their shaggy grey-brown colour scheme with double shafted feathers on their body. And they have dark feathers on the back of their head looking like a mohawk, which is pretty bloody cool if you ask me. They also have bare blue skin down each side of their head and neck. And they're Australia's largest native bird, growing up to 2 metres in size, with a wingspan of only 20 centimetres. How embarrassing. And we all know that emus are strong enough and dangerous enough to go to war with the Australian Army and winning back in 1932, which was the Great Emu War. They are known to attack people who have annoyed them or gotten too close. But most of the time they attack because you've gotten too close to their young or the emu nest. But shockingly, the biggest threat to human safety with the emu isn't them attacking you, but actually car accidents. Not because the emu is a bad driver, but because Australians don't know how to slow down on country roads. Now, onto the most evil bird on this list. The bird I'm talking about is the Australian magpie. They're known for their stunning black and white colour scheme, and they also have a piercing red eye. And the Australian magpie is found all throughout Australia, from suburbs, wetlands, coasts, the list goes on. But they're only really absent from the northern tip of Cape York and the end region of Northern Territory. Also the Great Sandy Desert of Western Australia, and their diet includes lizards and even small frogs. But what makes the magpie so dangerous? It's their protective nature towards their young, but most of all, because of mating season. These boys get very aggressive if they're not mating. But the magpie might be the most protective and territorial bird on the list, which also makes them very dangerous and aggressive. And they have some crazy moves. Starting off, they're known to dive bomb, coming straight from the air right down to the ground. And that is their first threat. Next, they'll come and swoop you, which can hurt because of how powerful and sharp their beak is. And their beaks are very dangerous. Next time you see a magpie, just look and admire their beak, and you'll realize how powerful and sharp they can be, and why you don't want to be swooped by one. And to get swooped by a magpie scares so many Australians. This has resulted in people getting hit by cars trying to outrun magpies. While other reports have had people lose their eye from a magpie swoop. And if you thought life couldn't get any worse for men losing their hair, well, the magpie is known to attack bald people more than people with hair. But the Australian public, they're fighting back by putting zip locks on their bike helmets to stop magpie swoops.
You serious?
But not enough research has been done to know if putting zip locks on your bike helmet actually does stop magpie swoops. Now onto the last bird on the list, which is the most dangerous bird in Australia. And not just that, the most dangerous bird in the whole world. They are so dangerous that they have led to multiple fatalities, just like in Mortal Kombat. And to call them a bird is a bit of an understatement, because they're more like a dinosaur. And that is the southern cassowary. And this is the southern cassowary. The whole shirt I've been wearing this whole time, southern cassowary. And they're the closest alive relative to dinosaurs, still thriving for over 60 million years, sharing a lot of characteristics with the dinos, including their three-toed feet and respiratory systems. They can grow up to 1.8 meters tall, making them Australia's second tallest bird. They have a black shaggy hair and bare skin on their head, which is pale blue turning into a purple. Also have a bony crest on the top of their head, and no surprises, they're also flightless. They're found in northeast Queensland from Cape York down to Townsville. And they're also found in Indonesia and Papua New Guinea. And they love to live in rainforest type biomes, but also known to wander around into people's gardens and backyards, where unfortunately they have had run-ins to people's pet dogs, which, well, didn't end up well for the dog, let's just say that. And the cassowary has some real single dad vibes, because the male will raise the young for up to 9 months on their own, while the woman goes around mating with other male cassowaries. Those poor guys. But that isn't what makes them dangerous. They're known to be quite humble, but when it comes to mating season and looking after their young, they can become very aggressive. With their toe, it has a sharp dagger-like claw, which can rip through human bones. And if they kick you in the chest, well, I'm sorry, I just don't think you're going to make it. And unfortunately, you won't even be able to outrun the cassowary, because they reach speeds up to 50 kilometers an hour. I also can't find any information if they use the big crest on their head to attack people. All I found is that they'll use it to knock on trees to drop fruit. So if you know the answer, please tell us in the comments below. So it's highly recommended you take very strong caution with dealing with cassowaries, with a lot of warning signs in the area. And not just that, there's also signs in the area telling you how to be cassowary. Saying, if you want to take a photo, do not corner the cassowary. Remember, it is a wild animal and it hates you. Its feet are daggers and it's always angry. It will slash at you, it will climb into your van and eat your food. This is all true, you should be frightened of cassowaries. They are having a bit of a laugh about the situation, but it still implies please be cautious of the cassowaries. And you're usually pretty safe around them. I got to see 2 wild cassowaries last time I was up in Queensland. And all you have to do is just keep your distance and not frighten them. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to watch my next video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bells, because I do this in my spare time. I don't have a time schedule. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who's recently subscribed. We've just reached over 1,000 subscribers, And then last time I checked, it was over 3,000. So thank you very much for that. I've also started a bit of a merch line of shirts of birds I've taken photos of. You can find it in the link in the description below. And if you want to see more of my wildlife photography, check out my Instagram at wilderlad. Thank you for watching. Make sure to comment in the comments below so I know you watched it all, and have a great day. Bye.